finish up here before the market does, but I don't think the market's going to move all that much to change where it's going to close. All right, but let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for July 17th, 2019. We got about 24 minutes left. SPY basing at the lows down 0.45% and Qs down 0.23. SPY showing relative weakness to the Qs. All right, so what we got here is a nice double bottom on the Qs, and on the SPY we're already going through that bottoming tail. Okay, coming into today, what I wanted to see was a rally and see if we get that rally, then we can use this as the pivot. We didn't get it. Now this SPY is back into support here. Okay, so we are now losing the uptrend on the SPY. I wanted to see if we got a rally, we'd have a clear pivot to use. We didn't get that. Instead, we continued lower. That's going to force us to switch to a neutral bias. We are into support here, so I don't have a bearish bias. Okay, so neutral on the SPY. And then the Qs, if we break under today's low, right, which is relatively equal to yesterday's low, then we'll also go neutral on the Qs. So neutral to bullish going into tomorrow because the Qs hasn't yet broken. SPY has broken, showing relative weakness. But going into tomorrow, a little bit more bullish on the Qs. But overall, we're starting to look more and more neutral, looking like we may need to rest and go sideways, okay? Now, we talked about this pivot here on the SPY. You know, if we break that, we definitely want to see where the follow through is. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at on the SPY. If we get more selling, then the next setup we can be bearish. Okay, and then on the Qs here, once we break below, if we get more follow through, then the next setup. Okay, so still a little bit of wait and see to see if we want to switch to a bearish bias on the Qs and SPY. We'll have to see the selling and then the next setup. As far as the larger time frame goes, right, we're still overall bullish. And if we're talking about the daily, we're talking about the next days and weeks, right? And so longer term here, still bullish on the Qs and SPY. Just in the short term, talking about the next hours and days, we are losing the bullishness and looking more and more neutral. All right, so going into tomorrow, neutral to bullish. All right, we'll see what we get. That will be likely dependent on what the gaps do that we get tomorrow. We have some big ones, eBay, IBM, UNP reporting, so we'll see how they influence the major indexes, okay? All right, so what I wanted to talk about today is something that came up yesterday in a coaching session. I was talking to a student about kind of the plays that they'd taken this week. And we were kind of reviewing some plays, and there were a couple that I thought that were well within his trading plan, and I was kind of wondering why he didn't take them. And the one that we were talking about, one of them was the SYMC here, and then also the WDC. So I'll show you the SYMC here, right? Why didn't this breakdown meet his criteria? Why was that a pass? Why was the WDC? And so as we were kind of going over it, this WDC breakdown, he said, well, I was told and I was taught that we don't want to play things at lunch, right? At or near lunch, during lunch, that kind of thing. And so I thought, okay, that while isn't all out untrue, there are a lot of summer or some lunch doldrums, a lot of lunch shakeouts, things like that. But if what we're seeing is that a lot of the good plays, especially the shorts, seem to go at lunch, then we have to respond to that correctly. And so one of the best plays today, which you know, I'm hoping that our conversation kind of maybe helped him kind of shed that notion. You can see here triggered basically right at 12 o'clock, right at lunch here, and that's what we've been seeing. So you know, it's something that I think, whether it's because, you know, a lot of trading is automated and machines don't take a lunch break or whatever, it's not really a big deal to, I think, to figure out why necessarily we might get set plays at lunch that follow through really nicely or that have been setting up all morning and then go. The fact is that we're getting them. Okay, so that's what I care about more so than the why. So as long as it's happening, I think it's something that we have to be aware of. And I think it's something that has been common adage for a long time, that at lunch you don't want to take breakdowns and breakouts because they're likely to fail, right? And it's, maybe in a time where, yeah, traders would take their lunch break and then there was no one to kind of continue the follow through. But what we've been seeing this week, right, is that the breakdowns at lunch, really nice tight bases, are getting the follow through, right? So, I think it's something that we have to adjust to. So if you're used to taking a lunch break, right, maybe it's something that you want to, if you do have a favorite going into lunch that you're prepared to play, maybe bring your lunch to your desk. Or, if you're like me, I don't take a lunch break because I usually do that for use that time for some additional scanning and preparing for the afternoon, right? But a lot of big plays have been coming up at this time. So, what I want to do here really is just to bring that to your attention, because I think it's something that can be a big miss if you kind of don't make that adjustment. That doesn't mean necessarily tomorrow that the best plays will occur at lunch, right? But it's something we want to be aware of. And it's something that I have to adjust to too, right? I think this TXT was a big miss. If you were with me on the mic right as we're about to break for lunch, I said, well, maybe we can get, if it breaks, a second entry. And then there was no second entry. Basically, it got going and there it went. So, this adjustment, right, needs to be made on my part as well, right? In the SYMC, we played on Monday. I thought that was just a perfect setup. I didn't care that it was at lunch. But having seen what has been going on now, right? Oh, here's another one, the HTHT. Kind of broke down here, right? Before the end of lunch here, right? Nice breakdown there, right? Here was the gap on the HTHT, right? And we're talking about the plays that we're focused on. I'm not trying to, find things after the fact that worked at lunch. These were on the list. These were gaps that we were focused on. HTHT, TXT was a gap down because they reported earnings. SYMC on this day, their buyout deal was starting to come into question, right? The WDC had come up as relative weakness, very extended on the daily. So these were all things that were discussed prior to breaking for lunch, right? And so, I just wanted to point this out because it's not the first time that I've heard that lunch breakouts often fail. And breakouts and breakdowns, but we have to be aware of what's working, right? And I think that's a big part of this, what we do here in the market wrap, because we always have to be aware of it, always making kind of the right adjustment of what to focus on. So, right, it's not necessarily, I think some people kind of interpret this when they see something like you give you the numbers on the SYMC and tell you where the exits are, that they look at it and they kind of feel bad, and they think that I'm just trying to make them feel bad for not being in the room or not playing the trade or taking the trade. What the purpose is say you take that SYMC and you see this breakdown, and then a couple days later you see the HTHT and you say, where have I seen this before? Where do I know to play this short, right? That's what I'm trying to get at, right? It's not to make you feel bad or guilt you into joining the room or anything, right? It's really so that we can all be on the same page of what we're seeing, where the nice moves, where the big moves are coming from, okay? So hopefully that makes sense, okay? And I expect that after this week especially, there'll be more people in the room who will be scanning along with me when I'm scanning at lunch, right? And if it turns out that nothing sets up at lunch or the play doesn't work, that's fine, right? We'll still be prepared for the afternoon. So, I don't look at it as kind of a big loss, even if you have to have your lunch at your desk or skip out on lunch altogether, okay? So I think it's something to be aware of. We'll see if that continues to be the case moving forward. If we start to see more breakouts, breakdowns that start to fail at lunch, then we can always adjust. But so far what we've seen this week is that it's a pretty lucrative time to be playing things. I noticed that the TXT, that breakdown came right at 12 o'clock, same with the WDC, and then the HTHT and SYMC right in the middle of lunch, okay? So, maybe they're meant to kind of get this business done when they think people have stepped away Again, I don't really care too much about the why. I just want to know what's working. Okay. All right. So that's going to do it for today's market wrap. I hope you did well. If not, we'll be back at it tomorrow. Earnings season is really just getting started. Okay, so hopefully you're not getting a little bit too impatient. I didn't think there was all that much to choose from today, right? So make sure that we are ready to go for the next couple days, and then definitely next week we'll get pretty busy. I think if you were with me on the mic today, you even saw that kind of as I came on the mic, there were multiple plays that were kind of triggering and coming up all at the same time. So I expect that there'll be a lot more of that, less of these kind of just 1 or 2 plays a day. Okay, so hopefully you're as excited as I am. All right, so hope you have a good rest of your day and a good evening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.